Hello, 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 and welcome to Spherical Luminosity's YouTube Live. So, some of you have already written in about where you're from. So I just wanted to say hello to some of you. So, hi Liz from New Zealand, the first one on. I see you, welcome. And there's Laura from Iowa and Betsy and Todd tuning in from San Diego, Brigitte from Ontario, and then, gosh, we have so many people. Nat Hawk, I don't think we've seen you before from Australia. Thank you for joining us. And then we also have Karina coming in from Brazil. There's so many of you. Thank you all for joining. It's wonderful to see you all. And for those of you I didn't get to say hello to, I see all of you here, and it's really wonderful to have you with us. Okay, so today we're addressing something that is important, which is what the hell is happening to my body, essentially, right? What's the difference between physical lag, and ascension symptoms, and a whole bunch of crazy stuff that's going on right now. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Karen Chong. Many of you know me already, and some of you don't. So for those of you who are new, I help to catalyze awakening and a rise in human consciousness by releasing people's blocks at what I refer to as frequency level, amplifying your awareness of the divine within, so you can recognize and live the abundance and limitlessness of your true nature as infinite, indestructible consciousness embodied. This is your birthright, and the time for humanity to awaken to this possibility is now. So for those of you who are brand new to frequency work and don't know much about it, I'd recommend checking out episode 176, Frequency Work Fundamentals Reboot, of my podcast, Mastering Your World Through Frequencies, on this very same channel. And again, that is episode 176. So today we're talking about all the weird ass symptoms that are happening in the physical. And we're going to kick it off with my amazing co-host from the podcast, Ms. Fiona Malcolm. All right. So if you're still hanging with us after that. All right. So.
Yeah, right. So I know and have heard from lots of people that there's a lot of pain out there in different levels, emotional, physical, mental, people feeling like they're about to snap in two. So, but what we're going to focus on is really what's happening inside the physical body. Is that it? So, physical lag, and then the ascension symptoms. Are they different?
Yeah, that's a really wonderful question. And I think I'm going to broaden the topics to like physical and emotional, mental, because for those of you who've done coherence mastery, you know that to me, I kind of lump those together because they're denser. So I'll kind of address all three because I think it'll be easier or are more applicable to more people. So they can look very much the same because, all right, so let me back up.
Yeah.
All right. So as you guys know, as you rise in your frequency resonance by releasing your distortion patterns, what happens is everything happens on frequency level instantly. Yes. So that's what happens first. So at the level of the field, at the level of that kind of consciousness, everything is instant. And we're working also at the level of the eternal now. So what happens then is that you are physical. So meaning you're embodied, and that change has to like sort of filter its way through like the rest of your distortion patterns, right? The rest of your rule sets and all that sort of stuff. And the physical body, because it's the most dense, takes the longest to adjust to what's happened instantly at the level of the field, because it's much lower in vibration. I mean, just think of yourself, right? If you're infinite indestructible consciousness and you're vibrating really, really fast and everything's happening instant, you can like take it in like instantly. But in the physical body, and because we're in linear time, it's slower. So your body takes longer to adjust to the change that's happening on spirit level.
Okay. So, because this leads me into the question then, what if I'm not doing frequency work and I'm still feeling these terrible symptoms, mental, emotional, physical? Is that because I'm still part of the one? I'm still part of the collective. I'm still part of the field. And then what's the difference then from somebody that is doing the frequency work? In it, I mean, it has to be impacting everybody.
Yes, it is.
So it's not just the people that are doing the work.
Correct.
Because also, as you keep telling us, at this time,
Yep.
there is an ascension happening,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So thank you for asking that. So I'm going to try and answer that in a way that will make sense. Okay. So I just talked about physical lag, right? So things that are happening at the level of the field happen instantly, and then your physicalness needs to catch up.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I talk about that, that happens a lot when you're doing frequency work. And it also happens at this time, meaning that, as you said, we're in this window where consciousness is rising across all dimensional orders, okay, on all different kinds of planes. And so we are part of the everythingness that is rising in its consciousness. And because it's an accelerated, let's say, upward bump in your consciousness level, that amplifies the physical lag effect that I just mentioned.
Right.
So everyone has the effect of physical lag because it's happening at the level of the field, meaning that upward push in consciousness is happening to all beings on all levels.
Yeah, whether they like it or not.
Whether they like it or not.
Okay.
So you're going to experience that same kind of physical lag, even though you're not doing frequency work. The difference between, now this is the second part of your question, which is the difference between someone who's doing frequency work and confirming the removal. I just want to make that very clear, because if you're doing frequency work and you're not confirming the removal, then you're only kind of partially doing frequency work, just to make that.
You're kind of rolling in the mud a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. You're kind of stuck in that place where it's not totally released. So please confirm the removal, right? And if you don't know what that is, there is a whole podcast on confirming the removal, and there is a GFC to help you do that. Okay. So now, somebody who's doing frequency work and confirming the removal will have more awareness of what's happening. It makes sense? So I personally feel that it's really helpful to have that context, because you're like, okay, I understand that things take longer in my physical body to catch up. So you have perspective. So you're not just suffering in it. You actually have context. And without like context or purpose, suffering is just suffering as opposed to being growth, right?
Yeah.
Like, right. So you kind of need those things together. So for people who aren't aware and aren't doing a lot of frequency work, what's happening is that they're experiencing the symptoms and they are in resistance because it doesn't feel very good.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anyone's noticed this, but it doesn't feel particularly delightful, right? To be in like physical lag time, whether it's physical, mental, emotional. It sucks. It's not very pleasant. And so for people who are doing the frequency work, you have a little bit more distance depending on who you are, sometimes a lot more distance depending on who you are, from your thoughts and emotions, right? So you can be like, okay, this is happening. I don't know why yet, but I'm going to recognize a distortion pattern. I'm going to confirm, remove it. I understand this is part of the greater picture. So you're less in resistance because you're like, okay, this is happening for a reason. I might not know what it is, but like, let's roll with it. Because at this point, I'm not sure what else to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Someone who isn't doing frequency work is just like, oh my God, this is freaking terrible. I am now in resistance because it's painful. I mean, right? As humans, we like brace, or we like go into defense, or we like, right? When it comes to things that are uncomfortable, painful, or like suffering, clearly, and we become afraid of it because we don't know what it is. And then what happens is, because of the polarity that's happening as a result in the 3D world, you know, like this oppression that's starting to surface, the control that's starting to surface, all that stuff. And then the opposite movement, right? That causes a lot of conflict. That is just amping up that like space in that collective where that resistance just mounts because there are more and more and more defense.
And their distortions are heightened, right?
Yes,
so
distortions are heightened.
They're becoming magnified because, as you've always told us, it's there for us to stop and recognize them and clear them.
Yes.
So clearly, if we are in this moment of ascension, that's what's going to happen, right?
Yes.
It's like, here you go, everybody.
Yes.
This is what you need to work through.
Yes.
And so
exactly.
now we've got, like you say, this polarity of people that are not aware that that's what's happening for them, the opportunity. And then you've got the other side of the coin where you've got a ton of people that are aware.
Yes.
They know what they got to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're having these like, ow.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And so I think that also without the context, it can really feel like, so meaning for the people who aren't doing frequency work as much, or any kind of internal work, okay? It doesn't have to be frequency work. It can be any kind of internal work, whatever the thingy is. what can happen is, like you said, it amplifies your distortion, because so then it amplifies the feeling that you're separate, that you're alone, that you are disconnected, that you're a victim, that there's nothing you can do, and that you're not worthy of having anything better. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then people start to disassociate from their bodies because they're like, oh my God, right? Like it feels like too much. I don't want to deal. So that's the difference, is what I would say, right? So, and if somebody's doing internal work, they at least, whatever the thingy is, you know, at the different degrees that exists at, it's helpful, because at least then, again, it's about you having context with it.
Okay, right. I have what could be a potentially difficult question.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting there thinking, we're all doing the frequency work. We're at different stages of it because we have time commitments or whatever, awareness, blind spots, you name it. What if somebody is being super diligent? They're doing the work. They're doing the replays 100 times a day, and they're confirming the removal, yet they are still having this intense, like super intense, magnified intense moment of these kind of, not distortions, it's like it's impacting them at a frequency level to the point where it's impacting their physical reality.
Yeah.
What's happening there? Like, and what can they do? Because they're already doing everything. So what happens to that person?
So, okay. What I'll say is that, generally speaking, as humans, we tend to feel like we're not strong enough, like we're not empowered enough, that someone else has to do it for us. You see,
right?
Okay, or that we're not worthy of this rise. So for many people, I'm not saying for everyone, for many people, we're stepping into this place where we're really coming into our authority. I know it doesn't feel like it, okay? So believe me, please know that I'm not saying that it's easy to be in suffering, because it's not. But when we go into that space where we're like, I feel like I'm doing everything and nothing's working, there's this key little piece here that I've noticed in some people, right? You know, even people who are like, for example, in the Limitless Potential Mastermind, which is a very fast-moving group. They're very committed to releasing their distortions. They can manage their detox, like the reorganization. They got it, right? But even with this group, sometimes there's wobble. And for those I've noticed who come in with the most wobbly, it's about coming into authority. It's like, I actually have it. Because there's always this part of us that doubts that we actually can, that we have to do all the different things, and we have to do. And if we don't do, then we're kind of screwed somehow, or we're missing something. And I'm not saying don't take care of yourself, okay? But there is this distortion. And there is also this fear that we can't handle it, and something terrible is going to happen if we don't.
Okay.
Right? And so what is happening, I'm noticing with people, is they're starting to recognize in some way that, wait a minute, if I actually can be in this moment in surrender, and I'm with myself, and I recognize the distortion of disempowerment, and I start to move to release it, something in them shifts.
Okay.
And they start to feel different. Now, what I'll say is, and it's not an easy time.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not an easy time. So part of it is, I mean, some people need a little bit more support through this time. It's intense. Okay? It's just like, a lot of people are releasing a lot of patterns really hard and fast right now, but they're not really aware that they are.
Right.
It's kind of confusing, right? You're like, I don't really know that I'm doing it. It just feels like a bunch of crap is hitting the fan. And yet they're releasing a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So sometimes you need to have the support of something else, right? Like, I would say, like, living your brilliance is more critical than ever right now.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to focus more and more on like adjusting the physical alignment, because I feel like it's needed. And if people don't need it, you'll just feel better, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. So
It's a win-win.
Yeah, exactly. So if you feel like crap, you'll feel better. If you feel great, you'll feel even better. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter. But I feel like this is an important thing to do, and living your brilliance is so critical at this time. And also because people are a little bit floaty, because they are disassociating, like I said, it can make those physical symptoms worse. You know what I mean? It can make the suffering harder.
Yeah.
Because we're not centered. And if we're not in our center point, man, at this time, it's just like brutal.
Okay, I'm going to kind of ask you a left hook question here.
Go for it.
But do you think that that's changing as well?
Yes.
Because there's so much happening at the moment. Like, this is the funkiest I've ever felt it. Timelines kind of disappearing, and and then like equilibrium's not there, you know, and then the center point seems to be shifting, and it just, sometimes it can feel so scattered. It's like trying to find the needle in the haystack.
Yeah.
And it really takes a lot of willpower to go, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I got spatially referenced, because actually I don't even know if this is the actual spatial place that I'm supposed to be in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering at the same time, is this also disrupting? It's a delicate topic, but is this also disrupting the shadow side of
Yes, it is.
the consciousness?
Yes, it is.
Like, because I feel like there's a lot more dead people than before.
Yeah, and there's a lot more darkness around. So darkness. Okay, so
be wary.
Yeah. So what I would suggest to people is, when I talk about this right now, be aware of yourself, be aware of your center, be aware of your body, because it's easy to drop into the fear. Whenever I talk about darkness, people freak out. Look, I'm not saying don't be aware of the darkness and obviously hold your space with it, but it's also to understand that you have authority over your own space.
I think back to that.
Yes,
again.
because I think a lot of people forget that.
Yes.
And it sure as hell doesn't feel like you have authority in your space when that stuff is up. Okay, so please know that I'm aware. But I'm saying this now because in this time where there's such strong upward movement, and we are moving from this level of consciousness into another, it's not like you can casually say that as if it's just like, I don't know, you're having a cup of tea, but it's like a freaking huge jump.
Yeah.
Like, we're very dense in our vibrational level. So to move in this consciousness level is really huge. And so when there's this kind of upward movement, as I said many times before, reorganization is fundamentally unstable. If it were stable, then you would stay the same.
Yes.
Like, there would be no change, but you are changing. And because that's happening, and because whether or not you're aware of it, and I know sometimes it's hard, especially we're in the thick of it, that you are releasing a lot of distortion patterns, you're getting very bright, very fast, and you're kind of like reorganizing. So you're kind of like doing this, right? So
That's
here you
what
are.
it feels like.
Yeah. So you don't know where the hell your center is. Everything's a little freaking wobbly. It feels a little funky. You're not exactly sure what's happening. So it's kind of like an opportunity, right? If you're not holding your space for things that are dark to try to come in, because you're more appealing. And please hear me when I say this. You're getting to the level in your resonance, for not all of you, but many of you, where that won't affect you anymore. You're just there. Okay. And so my point is that if you're feeling something heavy and dark around you, just be aware to hold your space, to push it out, to know that you have authority in your space, to be aware of your body, to come into the center of your solar plexus. Okay. If you have done more of the retreats or you're an LPM, assess whether you want to come into the quantum heart space. Assess how stable you are. Stable first, expansion second, right? If you're unstable and you're all over the freaking place and you're trying to expand, it's just like messy, right? So the reason I'm saying all this is because, yes, the shadow side is getting louder, right? They always say, right, that it's the darkest before the dawn.
Yeah.
And please know that I'm not trying to evoke fear. I'm trying to evoke resolve.
Yeah.
Because we had a little reprieve there for a little bit. It lasted a real short period of time, and it's going to ratchet up. And please know, I'm not telling you this to be like, oh my God, like I'm going to fear now. I don't think I can handle anymore. It's to know that you can do it.
Yeah.
It's to know, honestly, on some level, you can do it. And that the more that it's like, now double down on the work.
Yeah. I mean, you can see it in the outward realities, what's happening, even at the political level and all the other levels. You can see it. The outward reality is starting to rattle. So it is now time to put everything that we've learned
into practice. And if you've been following Spherical Luminosity for a while, we've been saying this. We're like, and it's going to be real intense this year. Just, FYI. And everyone's like, oh, I don't know what that means. Well, it's kind of, this is what it means. And it, the thing is, to understand that, yes, it's wobbly for you, and there is a lot. I'm not belittling the suffering, because it's real.
Yeah.
And thank God we have the tools that we do. Yeah. Because there are people who are like 100x suffering, and I'm not saying we're better than them at all, but there's more suffering, and it's not good, and it is painful, and it's important right now, not only for yourself, but for just generally the rise in consciousness, because it is in the fire of what is happening right now that you strengthen, and that because you make the choice to rise in your frequency resonance, to hold your space, to be aware of what's happening. You're like, I will not be cowed. I will not be put into fear. for a longer period of time than's necessary. I'm not saying you should never experience fear, but you know what I mean? Like I won't be put into that space.
Yeah.
I refuse because you're in that space and you make that choice. To you, it feels like a choice for you, but it's not. It's you're making a choice that is of much higher resonance, even though it doesn't seem that way potentially to you. And it makes a huge shift because that possibility exists for others to do the same. You might not see them, you might not know them, but the fact that you exist and are choosing that, as you said, is the counter to the shadow.
Yeah.
And it's not about being afraid of the shadow. It's like, okay, there it is. I'm not going to put any focus on it. It's there.
Yeah.
It's not like everything's amazing in love and light. No, it's not all amazing in love and light. The darkness exists.
And
it is part of the one.
It's always been there.
It's always been there. It's part of the one.
It's new. It's just now we're aware more than ever
before. Yes.
Of what it is.
Yeah, it's just freaking loud is what it is.
It's really loud.
Yeah.
And the good thing is we have the community.
Yes.
Like we have a community of people that are all doing this work. And that I think as well, that's really important when we're coming through these times to know that you're not alone.
You're not alone.
You're not alone. You have the tools.
Yeah.
Reach out.
Yeah, exactly.
And talking about reaching out, if you're done.
Oh, I just wanted to mention one more thing because
Go
I know you're keeping your eye on the time.
I am my one eye.
So I just want to talk about ascension symptoms specifically.
Okay, go on. Yes,
just because I think because that was like way at the beginning and I never kind of got to it. Okay, so in our like meandering conversation here. Okay, so what the hell is an ascension symptom, and why does that happen, and how do you deal with it?
Yes.
Okay. And will it last very long? And as you said, is it different from physical lag?
Yeah.
Okay. So ascension symptoms to me are very similar to physical lag because to me, it's just your physical body rising in vibration. So let me just back up again. So we have consciousness rising. Yes. If you're here, you've decided to stay present in your body as your consciousness rises, as opposed to like exiting out and having a death experience. Okay. Because you can do that too. But a lot of people are choosing that, and some people aren't.
Yeah.
And so if you choose to have that experience, then your physicalness has to also, which is very dense, by the way, has to rise in its vibration, right? It has to, in order to because it's part of you.
Yeah.
Right?
You got to take it with you.
You got to take it with you. Yeah. So, okay. An ascension symptom is when the physical body it's kind of like I said, it's kind of similar to physical lag, right? It has to adjust up to these big bumps in vibrational level rising.
Yeah.
Okay. So for some of you, it's not painful. It's just freaking weird. You know what I mean? So it'll be like, oh my God, my right eye is out of focus all of a sudden. Like, what the hell with that? Right? Or like you're like, and don't have balance right now. And you've never had low blood pressure. You eat clean. You're fine. You're healthy. You work out. There's like no history of it. You're like, okay. Right? Or things like ringing in the ears.
Oh, yeah.
Or palpitation of the heart.
Yep.
Or like tingly in your extremities, like your fingers or your feet. And like I said, you're taking care of yourself physically. So there's like no like rhyme or reason for this stuff. For some of you, it's very freaking disconcerting. Some of you will have bleed throughs from other lifetimes.
What does that look like?
Okay. Here you are at your desk, doing work. It's a random Monday, 3:30 in the afternoon. You're not thinking about anything particular other than, you're doing whatever you do for work. All of a sudden, you have this extraordinary sense of like being in a different place, right? So it could be something like just a smell, right? Like you smell something really strong. All of a sudden, you're like, okay. Or you hear something and you're like, was that like a cell phone or something? Or you have a full-on experience where you're like, all of a sudden find yourself with it's almost like a very intense daydream where you're like, all of a sudden walking in this place in the mountains and you have this really clear, like it's weirdly familiar. You're like, okay, but you personally have never been there.
Yes.
You're like, I don't recognize this, but it is so familiar to me.
And when you look at your body, you're maybe wearing a completely different outfit.
Yeah, or something like that, right? Or you have this moment where you have this flash of like, not only a familiarity of that place, but like, almost like it's like you almost have like an almost memory. So it's like you have a sense of like who the people closest to you are, but just for a flash and then it's gone.
Yes.
Right? So there are different levels of this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you can experience that. And that's freaking weird because you're like, don't know am I going crazy?
Yeah.
Right? Like you might actually think to yourself, like, am I just really intensely daydreaming or like, did that happen? Or, Right. So what happens is as you start to rise in your frequency resonance, especially if you're doing it really quick, okay, one of the things that can happen is that you are to resolve certain lifetimes in this lifetime. And what you're doing is you're starting to resolve that lifetime. Does that make sense? But you're not like,
consciously
it's not
trying to
conscious.
do
You're
it.
not like, gee, that lifetime that I had when I was Mayan doing this and doing this, that is what I'm resolving because of this. It's not that conscious. But those bleed throughs are often when you're starting to rise so fast in resonance. And because you're bridging more into the eternal now, the resolution of timelines of things that need to be, like I said, resolved, released, whatever, for your resonance to rise more happens.
Can you also reclaim some knowledge from those
Can.
bleed throughs as well that
Can.
help you raise your
Yeah.
consciousness?
Yeah, it's like a piece of information that comes through, or you'll have, for some of you, you're really active in your dream space.
Yeah.
So you'll be in your dream space and someone, like, it's really oddly familiar, but again, you don't know what's happening, or perhaps it's in the stars, or perhaps it's on like a different planet, whatever's happening.
Yeah.
And someone says to you, or in the dream, something, or you feel something, or some kind of information, you know what I mean? Like on
Yes.
some level, there's a transmission happening and you're like, it feels very profound. You may not know what it means, but it's crucial for this time.
Yeah.
That can happen.
Yes.
It can also feel like sometimes like what you mentioned at the very beginning, where you're, again, sitting at your desk, working, or, you know, maybe you're eating dinner, and then you're like, it feels very surreal for a minute. You're just like, it's almost like a dream. You're like, am I awake or am I dreaming?
Yeah.
Right? So it's a little bit weird. You're just like, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff happens because, okay, this is probably a little complicated. However, as you start to rise more into the quantum, okay, as your resonance rises from the center of your beingness being here in the 0 point of space and time, right in the center of your solar plexus. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch episode 151. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just be in the resonance of my words, it's fine. But as you start to rise in resonance, you start to go into what I call quantum, okay? Which is where you enter this state of like higher dimensional order, okay? Where you can access not only the physical, but other higher dimensional orders. So when that happens, things get a little bit strange because you start to lose linearity. Yes. Right? You start to experience more than just like your mind being like past, present, future. You know what I mean? It's like timelines, like you said, start to, you're like, oh, can be aware of them, you know, or you're not even aware that they're timelines. You're like, this just feels a little bit weird, you know, like dreamlike or whatnot. Yeah. Or I just need to center myself for a second here, and you don't really know why. Yeah. Right? So all those things are happening because as you start to go quantum, things lose linearity. That is why it's so critical to come back into the center of your zero. You have to anchor in this space-time resonance, right? I'm not saying you can't come into the quantum lens of the heart or the quantum zero for all of you folks who are doing LYB or living your brilliance and limitless potential mastermind, do it. But if you want to, but remember to anchor in that center because you need to, if not, it can get easy to get lost, is my point, right? Yeah. It can get easy to be pulled out and be like, I don't know where I am anymore. That is not good. No. You know, you need to know where you are. Yeah. Yeah. So an ascension symptom is basically an adjustment in your physical, mental, emotional bodies up to a higher level order frequency resonance. It's happening very fast. Right. Does that answer the question?
It does. Okay. Very much so. Very much so. And I'm sure if it doesn't, we'll have questions.
Cool. Yes. So that is what's happening to your body. Now, one other thing I'm going to say, sorry, I keep adding one thing. Fiona's like, time. All right, because we want time for you guys to ask questions. Okay, so I'm going to mention something that may be over some people's heads, and that's okay. Okay, so as you rise in your consciousness, what happens is that for people, as that happens, your light body activates.
Okay, right. The light body is different from the spirit body.
Correct. So your spirit body is a sphere at arm's length all around you, which projects into the center of it yourself as a hologram.
Yes.
Okay? Right. So we all know about this because I talk about this a lot.
That's the thing that creates the iteration of you in the physical.
That's right.
But and the spirit body.
Yeah, the spirit body. Yes.
That's the spirit body.
Yes.
But the light body.
The light body is still you, but it's the way I experience is kind of like around your spirit body, unless you've done work specifically at a very high resonance to allow for those things to connect more. So when your light body starts to activate, which is a very highly resonant, let's call it structure, that is an aspect of you that allows you to enter that quantum field, that can start to activate and start to feel weird to you, right? It can also sometimes be as your resonance rises really fast, for those of you, again, in the Limitless Potential Mastermind or LYB or in the retreats, sometimes because you're rising so fast, there's a misalignment between your light body, spirit body, physical body. Now, that may not sound like a big deal, like who cares? But it's like being out of coherence in your physical body, but on a more like exponential scale. And so if you're out of alignment, that can cause physical symptomaticness. I know it sounds weird, like why would that matter? Because at that level of vibration, just a little bit being off can cause you to symptomize more. Does that make sense?
The same symptoms or slightly different because it is such a higher
level. Yeah. So it can look like physical lag, and it can also look like it's both, actually. I know it kind of depends on the person. That's probably not very satisfying. I'm sorry. But that's what happens. So that's another factor that I just wanted to add there so that people are like, what? If you don't understand it, it's fine. But for some of you, you need a little adjustment in that. And I'm going to start doing that more regularly in Limitless, in the Living Your Brilliance program.
I was just going to ask, how do they get that?
I have to just keep attuning you to it because you're pacing really fast. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like you're freaking slogging sometimes. But when that adjusts, you're like, okay, that's good, right? And then you can advance, and then you might need to adjust it again. So I'll do that more in the bigger brilliance.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully that has given them enough food for thought. Shall we pass the floor to them?
Yes. So we will get to questions.
It takes time. It's a 10-second delay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So John says, I'm experiencing what feels like intense gravity force trying to crush me. I'm biting myself hard. I wanted to hit myself due to constant irritation with no relief. What's this about? I'm biting myself hard and wanting to hit myself due to constant irritation. Right. Well, what's happening for you specifically is that, so, okay, you're out of coherence in your physical body, and you're out of coherence within your spirit, like within the physical to the spirit. So when that happens, it's really, it can feel like, when, it's going to sound weird, but if you're trying to rise, it feels like you're being crushed because you're rising against what feels like something really heavy or dense. So it feels like a crushing. But if you were in coherence, it would just feel like expansion. Okay, so the symptoms are pretty hard. And so what I would recommend is, and you also have a lot of stuff that you're not releasing at your emotional level, which is causing you to get more stuck, if that makes sense. So if people are having trouble with emotional stuff, okay, I recommend practitioners who do, like, first of all, you can do EFT to yourself. You could do the emotion code and the body code. Marty Sayers is wonderful, and Michelle Moore also is wonderful. They both are practitioners of that modality. And you can look them up or write into info@sphericalluminosity. We do not receive anything from referring them, just to make it really clear. It's just service to the client, to the community. So they can help you move through it. Because you're what's happening is the incoherence or the lack of coherence is being caused by the stuff that's stuck at your emotional body, and you and some in your physical. So you need to clear that out so you can come into coherence, and then it won't feel like you're crushed. It's going to feel like you're expanding. So what's causing the like crushing feeling is the fact that you're in incoherence. Does that make sense? It makes it much worse. So hopefully that is helpful. I would seek help that way.
I think we should combine Heather and Marika and Marty's questions into one.
Okay, Chris is suggesting we should combine questions because they're similar. So Heather's question is, can ear ringing, itching ears, and ear swelling on inside be part of all this too? Yes. Yes, that's happening a lot. I don't know what the thing is with the ears. Excuse me. Oh, sorry. And I'm sorry, this is the second question. Can the changes manifest as physical issues in the body, i.e. physical sickness, indigestion, and detox? Yes, another symptom. And Marty's, what about taking medication to reduce physical pain symptoms? Yes, so yes, yes, and yes. So yes, all that weirdness that's coming up. And I've heard of people having like inflammation or infection of their salivary glands, like really weirdly specific. Or, and it's like all inside here, like in the glands on the inner ears, like this whole area. That's happening a lot right now. I would suggest taking, so first I would go, to me, I will go plant first. Okay, that's just what I would do. So I would find tinctures or something like this to help with the physical symptoms. And something, a modality like acupuncture or something like that to help your body just deal with the symptomaticness. I would also look into, actually, it's going to sound odd potentially, but there's something called PMF, okay? And there are these mats that you can either buy or that you can go to clinics and lie on. And it has to do with your magnetic field. And when you lie on them, it really is kind of amazing. It helps your sleep. It takes out inflammation and soreness and achiness out of joints. It can help things like stuff in the head and the ears. It can help with hormonal imbalance. So if you can get on one of those or find one of those or find a clinic, that can be really helpful in terms of help with that sort of thing. Also, there's this like what they call vibrational therapy, where literally you're being vibrated, your body vibrate, like you sit on you put your feet on something and it literally vibrates you. That is helpful with nerve joint stuff as well. From what I understand, I haven't actually tried it myself. I have the PMF mat and that makes a huge difference. I used to not be able to sleep. It flared recently where I couldn't sleep because my joints were just hurting, like just achy and I couldn't sleep. But once I started lying on that, it literally went away and I could sleep. So it was like a magic thing. So if it's really terrible, then find one of these modalities that are alternative. If obviously if their condition persists, then yes, go see a Western doctor to help with that. What I'm going to do today is something, okay, I'm going to talk about something else. I'm sorry, it's a little sideline. What I've noticed in people recently, including Chris, like my husband, Chris, is that it's weird, but the meridians of the body are not stable anymore for some people. So meaning, okay, backing up. So you may have heard that there are ley lines around the earth. Yes, there are lines of energy that run around the earth. Depending where location is, it can be impacted positively or negatively by these ley lines. So ley lines are moving, okay? They've always moved, but a little bit. Now they're moving a lot and they're actually colliding with each other. So your body is symptomizing that. But so the meridian system, which in Chinese medicine is like these lines of energy that run through your body that are somewhat electric and somewhat magnetic. And I'm sure the acupuncturists can correct me because I'm not an expert. They are talked about as if they're stable and they're not moving. And typically they're not. But what I've noticed on people recently, which is really weird, and I'm going to address it today, and I'll also do it in Living Your Brilliance, is that the meridian system is collapsing for some people, like meaning they're squishing on one side of the body and on the other side of the body, okay. So I'll help to realign the meridians so they're running clearly through your body. Because when you have like spazzy, squishy meridians, your body just goes like, what the hell is going on? And then you start to symptomize. So I will help with that today. Thank you for whoever is asking all these questions. So I'll help with that. And so I think I've answered that question. Have I? Should I answer? Sorry, am I missing something?
No, I think you have.
Okay, perfect. Great. All right. Next
Another
question.
one, you can mix a whole bunch of them. I'm going to have you read a separate.
Okay, so we're going to combine, we're going to flash the questions on the screen so you can see them, and then I'm going to answer a bunch of them to question. So I'm feeling very anxious recently. Is this part of it? Yes. So in this time, sorry. I'm supposed to be answering many things at one time. Shoot, sorry about that, guys. Okay, Grace. Lately, I've become very aware of how disconnected I feel from almost everyone. For example, I can't imagine truly feeling connected to a friend again. Is this happening on a larger scale? Okay. And I don't know who this is. It feels like it's harder and harder to differentiate between the waking state and the dream state. Is this part of it? Yes. Yes to all of those things. Okay. So, what the wonderful thing about community, I just want to mention, is that you recognize that you're not alone. Okay, so you think in a team that you're this, like, you're kind of losing your mind or you're going to cray land, but you're not. You're symptomizing in a way that is your way of expressing what's happening, but it's an expression that's unique to you that is part of something that's happening as a whole. Makes sense? So you're not alone. And it's really wonderful to have community so you can see these questions and recognize, oh, right, I'm not the only one who's experiencing weirdness. It's happening to more people. That's the power of community. So in a positive way. Right? Okay. So yes to all those things. All right. So why? So this is happening because as you rise in vibration fast, because of these waves of frequencies that are coming through to push consciousness up, in this period, like I said, that's very unstable and where there's a lot of reorganization, it is harder to find your zero. Because it's harder to be centered in your zero, if you haven't watched episode 151, all about the 0 point, you'll understand why that's so critical. Without being your center, when you start to render outside of your 0 point, more and more, you start to feel disconnected. You start to feel separate. You start to feel more lonely. You start to feel anxious. You start to feel depressed. And as you start to render more and more and more out of your zero, now it gets really strong. You start to have darker thoughts. You start to feel like perhaps even suicidal, like whatever it is, okay? That's why being in your 0 point is so, so critical and why I talk about it all the time, okay? So that's really important. So the anxiety, the disconnected, I can't remember what the other person said, something about, I can't remember at this point, but all that stuff, yes, that is, that is part of not being able to hold your zero. Now, the difference between waking and sleeping is what I talked about in the middle of our conversation, which is when you start to push into the quantum, even if for a second you can't quite tell where you are. Okay, that's when you can't tell where you are in terms of wake and sleep. All right, so that's what's happening. So just know that even if it's for a moment, because some of you guys will ping into that quantum resonance and then come down. Right? It doesn't mean that you're holding it all the time. So if that's happening for you, that's what's happening, right? You're starting to, like I said, break the linearness of what your mind thinks is solid, real, and like manageable. Make sense? So that's what is happening. Hopefully that's helpful. Okay. All right. So Chris is saying that, okay, we need to move to the GFC because answering the questions is helpful, but without the GFC, like the work can't be done. And so the other thing before we get to the GFC is that if you, I'm hoping Chris can put my little note back up. If you want to receive emails in your inbox about the new podcast releases, which always include a free group frequency calibration meditation, as many of you know, or when I go live for these YouTube lives, then please be sure to subscribe to become a Spherical Luminosity Luminary. Okay, so only Spherical Luminosity Luminaries are invited to our special community events like the recent Loneliness Cure workshop that I gave for free, or the first session of Living Your Brilliance that we offer for free once in a while, in fact, at the beginning of July. So if you want to receive any or all of that, plus the free centering GFC you receive for signing up, you can subscribe at the very bottom of our homepage at sphericalluminosity.com. All right, with all of that said, I'm going to now, we're going to do the free giveaway. Okay, so the free giveaway is a very, very helpful tool that has not actually been released to the public. I've just now created it by popular demand. So this, a lot of you guys know about the morning meditation setting the tone of the day, right? To set your frequency resonance to the highest resonating order so that your day can be very different. Well, people have been requesting the nighttime equivalent so that you can go into sleep at the highest frequency resonance and start to, do whatever you need to do in your sleep state. Yeah. So I've just created the nighttime meditation setting the tone for sleep. And I have not yet released it as a product on the website. We are giving that away now because boy, do we need it. So if you want to be eligible for the draw, let's write in
Hashtag free GFC.
#FreeGFC. That's #FreeGFC. Don't write your name, just #FreeGFC. And if you write that in, then you will be eligible for the fancy dancy system, which will then pull your name out of the magic hat. So we're just going to give you a little bit of time to write that so that you can be eligible to win.
That would be another Ascension symptom, right?
Which?
Being woken up at 3 in the morning.
Yeah. So Fiona's asking, could you hear her?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like this voice from, it's like the voice of God coming from here.
It's just, I am here. Oh, there's my sock again.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Because that can be another Ascension symptom, right?
Yeah.
I've heard about that a lot, that either being woken up really early, super early at 3, it always seems to be about 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Or, you go to bed, you're exhausted, you're tired, you get to bed and you can't sleep. And it's not that your mind's getting cray-cray, it's just that, what is going on?
Why am I not sleeping? Yeah, that can be a Ascension symptom, for sure. The being woken up at 3 or 4 is definitely another symptom. And it's not a bad thing. I would recommend, I know that you're going to be very tired because 3 or 4 in the morning and you would prefer to be asleep, obviously. Instead of stressing out about the fact that you're not asleep, to meditate, whatever it is. So that can be very light, right? Because you're sleepy. So you're just like, okay, I'm kind of meditating and I'm kind of in sleep. Great, just do that.
Or do this new GFC.
Yeah, or you could do the nighttime GFC as well if you want to. And or any GFC really would be helpful at that time. But the nighttime GFC would definitely help because it's shorter. But if you take that time, you're being woken up at that time for a very specific reason. And it's because when you come out of your sleep state into this time where you're more awake and you're more aware of how you can intentionally pivot your consciousness, it makes a big difference. Right? Because now you're intentionally with your free will choosing something with your conscious mind. So meaning if you do a GFC where you're like raising your resonance, you get more momentum from that 3 a.m., 4 a.m. meditation than maybe during the day, because you're kind of like in and out of that state of awake and sleep.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So because there's nothing else really happening at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, right. Except the fact you can't sleep.
Except for the fact that you're focused on needing to sleep.
Yeah.
Right. So your focus is sharpened. Is that what you're saying?
Sharpened. And also there's something that happens at 3 or 4 where it's, it's like you have more access to the higher realms for some weird reason that I can't understand. It's because your conscious mind isn't as engaged for most of us. I mean, I'm not saying that if you've been tossing and turning like until that point, but if you're up out of sleep all of a sudden, it's like, yes, you're awake, but you're kind of sleepy still, and you're kind of wanting to go to sleep. So your conscious mind isn't doing as much stuff because you're not like necessarily full awake.
Right.
You're awake, probably irritatingly, but you're not like as actively thinking. So when you go into that meditation, you can actually expand more in it. And I've noticed that at that time, even if it's like, it feels maybe like, I don't know, is it even a meditation? I'm kind of awake, kind of asleep, I'm kind of meditating. Yes, because you're still using your awareness to raise your resonance in that time, to connect to pure source, to be aware of the center of your body. And it's weird. There's a lot of expansion that can happen in that time. Yeah.
Harness that.
Yeah.
Who's won?
All right. So that bought you a lot of time. Oh, gosh. Okay. All right. One last question. Chris is like, one last question. Okay. He's like the DJ. So I guess I'm following the DJ. Okay. How do you differentiate between ascension symptoms that manifest in physical with real physical issues? I have weird things going on in my teeth, sensitivity after years of no symptom. You are not the only person who is having issues with your teeth. You would be surprised how many people during their RFCs are like, I have this weird tooth thing that I've never had before. Like I've never had tooth pain. I have very healthy mouth. I've gone to a dentist every year, every 6 months, whatever. And now all of a sudden this tooth is a pain in my ass. So, okay, it is a physical thing, right? So go sort it by going to see a dentist that you trust. And it is also a symptom that I'm seeing a lot for people who are rising in their resonance. So meaning it is also an ascension symptom. So you kind of have to tackle it both ways, I think. I mean, why not? So to do the frequency work and then also seek the physical stuff. And going to see a dentist in this case, for example, or going to see the whatever MD for whatever the thingy is that you have, right? So go see your people, go take care of yourself. And what will happen is those things are not antagonistic. They can be really kind of very collaborative in the sense that frequency work will help the physicalness resolve that you're getting through your, doctor, your dentist, your physiotherapist, your fill in the blank person, whoever they are. So those things complement each other. So that is what I would suggest, okay, is to do both, right? Okay. Rightio. All right.
Do we get to see the magic little thing?
Yes.
Oh, yay.
We're going to see the tool for GFC. All right, here we go.
1 second.
Oh,
I have to share.
he's sharing the screen. I don't know what's happening because I don't do this normally. Here we go. I'm just watching this along with you guys. Well, you guys don't know what's happening. You're just watching me trying to look at the screen. I probably should be aware that I'm consumed by this new thing. Okay, here we go. We are going to draw for the free GFC. Here we go. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, people-
Look at this. Very exciting. The winner is Brigitte. Woo! All right. I always like that part. That's really fun. All right. So, alrighty. For Brigitte, if you could please write into info@sphericalluminosity.com and say, I am the winner of the nighttime GFC, then they will hook you up. Okay? All right. We're going to hop to it. I think this GFC is really, really needed. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so Chris, we're just going to pause for a sec because Chris, being the conscientious guy that he is going to hook me up with a different mic so that you can hear me. Here we go. Better. Yes, mic pack on? Everything good? Excellent. All right. Let's rise together. Settling in. Yeah. Becoming aware of your body, please. And as you become aware of your body, becoming aware of your breath. And as you become aware of your breath, noticing the inhale, the pause, and then the exhale. And once you started to notice that pause, noticing the pause between the exhale and the inhale, just aware of the movement and the pause in your breath. Good. Bringing your attention, please, now to that center of your solar plexus. Between your belly button and the base of your sternum. And as you bring your attention to this spot, bringing fingers or hand to help with your focus, before we even raise your resonance, helping you to center into the 0 point of space and time. A lot of scatter in the field. Yeah. Better. Bringing your attention not only to the center of the solar plexus, but lightly into the heart space, right in the center of your chest. Asking yourself the question, how can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source? And as you ask yourself that question, you initiate your own rise in resonance. Okay, it's very important that you initiate it because it's your free will and it's your journey. So as you ask yourself that question, pull your resonance up. It's kind of like you're taking a running jump, catching you on the top end of your jump and pulling your resonance even higher. And as I do this, please become aware of, imagine, sense, or feel your brilliance, either from deep within all the way out, or from all around you, through you, and then deep within. Whatever works best for you. Good. Becoming lightly aware of the brilliance of the field of the one. However you imagine, sense, feel, or are aware of it. There we go. Good. Bringing your attention now, please, to your solar plexus. Okay. So first we have to release a couple of things. So one has to do with fear generally. So when we have these weird symptoms, right, we go into fear. as humans. We don't like suffering. It doesn't feel good to us. Okay? Pain is not nice feeling. So we're going to release the fear of the suffering, of the not knowing what the hell the symptom is, of what it might mean. And we're also going to release this set of story, okay, which has to do about like when we go into fear, we can spin into all kinds of crazy stories about what it might be, what it might mean, what might need to happen, a worst case scenario. Okay, all that stuff, right? And now you're scattering up into your head, away from the zero. So releasing this out of the solar plexus. Softening into the space. There we go. Excellent. Really nice. Yep. Bringing your attention to the front part of your solar plexus and the back of your neck along your spine. Okay. This has to do with the power dynamic between you and your body. Okay, first, and then we'll do it with your emotions. But we often feel like our body is like we're subject to our body, okay? Especially when it's not working well, or we feel pain or discomfort. And that kicks into the second distortion pattern with regards to the power dynamic between us and our emotion. It starts to get really loud, really shrieky. It's hard to have space. We feel like we can't get away from them. And the same with thought. So hang on. There we go. Imagining, please, a really clear crystalline light expands through the very core of you out in all directions around you. Excellent. Okay. So now, bringing your attention, please, to your throat and the solar plexus. Hang on a sec. All right, so this has to do with the meridian system, like I talked about earlier. Okay, so if your meridian system is fine, okay, running on all cylinders, great. Okay, it'll just allow them to be even more efficient, right? Provide you more chi or life force, and just run in a way where you feel more nourished. For some of you, it's a pretty significant subgroup. Your meridians are a little scrambly. Okay, not always, but sometimes, and for some of you, more of the time. If a symptom of this would be extreme fatigue for no freaking reason. Okay, it might be like infection or inflammation somewhere. It might be weird nerve pain that you're like, what in God's name is that? Okay, so hang on. I'm going to be quiet for a bit, right? Here we go. Good. Yeah. Ooh. Okay. Bring your attention now, please, right into the center of that solar plexus and right in the center of that xiphoid process. Okay, hang on. So let's bring you into more coherence first physically. Okay, there's a subgroup here that's resisting coherence. All right. I know you don't want to be in incoherence. I mean, I get it. Obviously, it does not feel good to you. But for whatever the reason is, being its story, its justification, whether it's someone in your space that you haven't recognized that you need to push out, whatever the thing is, okay? Hang on. You're resisting being in coherence. So help me to release that and everyone else. Here we go. Here we go. Good. Becoming aware now. The center of your solar plexus, the heart space, and your spirit body, that sphere at arm's length all around you. Whoa. Hang on a second. Also going to work in your brainstem. So what I'm doing in the brainstem, just so that you're aware, okay? So not only am I creating more coherence from the spirit body all the way down through the physical, but what happens when your body starts to shift or perceive change that is fast, it can happen so quickly the body doesn't recognize itself. I know it sounds weird, but it doesn't. And it goes into like survival because it's like, oh my God, there's nowhere that's safe, not even my body, because I don't recognize it. Okay. So that's what's happening in the brainstem. Okay. And just above the brainstem here. So, okay, we're going to clear that out. Okay. Then we'll bring you into more coherence, spirit body through the physical. Just a moment. Brainstem first. There we go. Good. And now focusing again on the spirit body. The center of the solar plexus, center of the heart space. Good. So now be aware, please, of your light body and your spirit body and those two spaces in the body, heart space, right in the center of the solar plexus. And aware of a structure that's around your spirit body, even if you don't know what it looks like. Okay, it's you at a higher dimensional order. It's a light structure. You may imagine it, sense it, feel it. Just know that it's there is sufficient. Hang on. There we go. Good. Yeah. Being aware, please, of your brainstem, lower back half of the brain, all the way down your spine to behind your heart space. Helping with the physical lag, okay? Bringing the resonance of your body Well, your nervous system first, then your body. Up. Good. Yep. And bringing your attention, please, right into the center of that solar plexus again, and being aware of the space within your spirit body, all the way into the center of your solar plexus. Okay. So if you can imagine that your own brilliance gets really more brilliant within the sphere, and I'll just help push out anything that isn't yours. Okay. So meaning other people's frequencies, control patterns, things that are darker, whatever. Random dead person. There we go. Mm-hmm. There we go. Excellent. Okay. So now bringing your attention right into the center of the heart space, or right into the center of the back of the neck along the spine. Right. So this has to do with the fear of not being able to hold your space. Okay, some of you that happens in your waking life, some of you it happens when you're in your dream state, some of you both. Okay? So good. Excellent. Really nice. Imagining, sensing, feeling once again that clear crystalline light spans out in all directions. Yep. And being aware of your heart space now. And as you are present and aware, imagining, sensing, feeling your heart space, imagining it starting to expand in all directions. And as your heart space expands, within it is a very brilliant yellow. So now bringing your attention to that xiphoid process right at the base of the sternum. And about 3 inches or 7 centimeters directly beneath it, towards the belly button, clearing out your pain body, because as many of you know, your pain body holds the memory of you before the frequency work was done. This helps you to reset and integrate much faster. Yeah. Good. Everyone take a deep breath in. Holding it for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhaling with sound. Holding your breath out for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathing normally whenever feels good to you. Yep, I'd recommend staying in this space, being in this resonance of greater coherence and alignment. And whenever it is time for you, whenever that time is, blinking your eyes open and looking at something inanimate. And if you've enjoyed this session and found it helpful, once we finish the YouTube Live, if you could leave a comment and let us know, we'd really appreciate it because it helps our content get to more people just like you. All right, guys. We'll see you however our paths cross next. Bye for now.